Hey guys, Meredith here with Madam Diesel. Today, we're going to work on this thing. We're going to see if we can't get it running and on its way out of the shop. I need the space and my customer wants it back. So we're going to get the new stuff installed and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully our engine starts for us. Well, here she is. You guys have seen it before in the last couple videos, and it didn't want to start for us because there was no fuel getting to the cylinders. So my customer and I agreed we're going to try out a Friday Parts injection pump and injectors, mostly because he's selling the boat, so we don't want to dump several $1,000s into cleaning up the OEM stuff. He'll certainly get it back, but we're going to see if this stuff can help us at least get the engine started, because we don't want to put a bunch of money into this thing if the engine's not worth putting money into. Now, normally I always encourage customers to use OEM parts, and whenever possible, especially if the engine's worth it, you want to be using OEM. You'll typically get better performance. However, this engine, this is the first Friday Parts injection pump and injectors I've ever put in. And I'm curious to see how they perform. I've never actually installed aftermarket stuff on these universals before, short of like gaskets and stuff. So I'm curious how this stuff is going to perform and whether our engine's going to get started. Since you guys have seen me tear this stuff apart before on this exact engine, we're going to fast forward through this because I know you guys want to see where I try to get it started. Here's our new injection pump, and it's a little bit different looking than the original pump. It seems to have these spacers in it, or aluminum blocks to protect the delivery valves. Also, the adjusting screws aren't on the non-OEM pump, so I'm curious if the adjustments are up above and those aluminum blocks are actually there to protect those and make sure they don't move. There were no instructions from Friday Parts with this pump, so I'm not really sure how this thing is adjusted or anything like that. We're going to keep the shims the same because it's the same volume pump, so we'll see how the engine runs. And even if we had to tweak it, I'd probably have to reach out to an injection shop and see if they knew anything about it, because I've never worked with this aftermarket style of pump before. our injectors and injection pump installed. I'm gonna crack my high pressure lines here, and I had started out bleeding the injection pump with the normal bleed screw, not realizing that apparently that bleed screw doesn't do much anymore for this particular injection pump. And this particular injection pump actually has a separate bleed screw. So we'll get deeper into that as I work on getting this engine started. I'm going to start by cranking the engine here, looking for fuel. I've got fuel at cylinder number 2 right away, which is good. And keep cranking it for a while, and I'm not getting fuel at the other 2 just yet. What I haven't seen is that cylinder number 3 at the injection pump I had left loose, so all my fuel was leaking out the bottom. But I'll eventually fix that. We're going to start warming this engine up. Try to get some warm air sucked down into the cylinders because our glow plugs aren't hooked up right now. And we're going to keep trying to bleed these injectors, and because once we get fuel to the injectors, then we should have fire. Now, with a lot of engines that use glow plugs, they're extremely feisty if they're cold. Even though today was a warm day, it was actually 90 degrees today, it just does not, like to start easily. I'm finally figuring out that this might be a bleed screw. We're going to try bleeding the injection pump at that. My tank isn't hooked up to my 12-volt pump yet, so that may also be part of our problem, getting fuel to the engine. I've got to kind of manually push it out. It looks like we got fuel to our injection pump, and we're going to give it a couple more cranks here and see what happens. Let's try cracking these injectors one more time and see if we finally get some good fuel at all 3. We haven't seemed to get consistent fuel quite yet, and this injection pump is proving to be kind of complicated to bleed compared to the OEM one. The OEM one, you just loosen the screw kind of on that return line fitting and it bleeds pretty much instantly. But this injection pump apparently needs more than that. Just in case, I am opening up that return line bleed screw and blowing through the tank just to see if that helps at all. And down the road, I'll end up using the actual bleed screw as the primary bleed screw, which seems to help the most. Looks like we got good fuel out of cylinder number 2, so I'm going to tighten this one up, and we'll focus in on cylinder 1 and 3 now. We're also going to re-bleed this bleed screw just in case there's more air trapped in this particular injection pump. On certain engines, certain injection pumps tend to trap air, and since this one seems to be a little bit different of a design, I really want to make sure I've got all the air pockets out. And you can actually see the air bubbles coming out right now. I want solid fuel coming out of that. I'm actually going to try to bleed it with my hand on, blow air into the tank and get fuel moving while my hand is loosening up the bleed screw, just to make sure it doesn't suck in air once I'm done, pushing fuel. Now we got some solid fuel, finally. This thing is particularly feisty to bleed compared to an OEM injection pump. All right, hopefully that's all the air. I can't imagine this thing can hold that much air, but apparently it can. Finally getting some fuel to the cylinders. Jesus. It did not. We're still lagging on cylinder 1, but got cylinders 2 and 3. This little pump seems to take a while to bleed. Let's see if we can get any fuel at this one. Ah, yeah! There we go. See all that smoke? That's a good thing. Now we got fuel to our cylinders. Wow, that took a while. Kind of surprised my 12-year-old batteries haven't died yet. Alright, this is going to be the moment of truth. We'll see. Warm up that air again. Well, at least now we have fuel at all 3 cylinders, as you can see with the billowing smoke. That's a great thing. As I crank it here, it seems like we're slowly getting the engine to warm up because now I've gotten it to kick. I'm getting good fuel to the cylinders, so at least that's not a problem anymore. That was our initial problem. Well, she's trying. Sure doesn't want to run on anything less than full fuel, though. Not super convinced by this injection pump quite yet. Oh, thank goodness. Well, she runs. I'm covered in grease, and it is almost 4 o'clock in the morning. I am ready to go home. I'm so excited that this engine runs. I'm not sure if I'm super convinced on the aftermarket injectors and injection pump. The engine certainly ran, and it ran well. It sounded good, but it was smokier than normal, especially with all brand new fuel injection stuff. It shouldn't have been that smoky. So I'm really wondering if there's adjustments, or maybe the spray pattern isn't, up to par because it's significantly cheaper. So in the end, I would absolutely have the OEM stuff rebuilt, because you're probably going to get better results from that than trying to go aftermarket and save a bit of money. In this case, it made sense to buy the cheaper. He's trying to sell the boat. Doesn't want to dump several thousand into this engine, especially when we weren't sure if it would even run. So that totally makes sense. For the next owner who might have the boat for many years, sure, he can, clean stuff up and make sure it runs good. Compression and everything was fine. I might tweak valves, because I did see a little tiny bit of backfire coming out of my intake. So I think one of the valves isn't sealing all the way. and we might be able to clean that up a little bit. This engine probably needs a little bit more love on the long term, but in terms of getting it running and being able to put it in a boat, it actually ran really smoothly, was very responsive, so that's great. And I'm happy to get it out of my shop. So it's been a long night. I will plan on seeing you guys next time. Thanks for watching.